inflation was very high. It's lower, and that doesn't mean that we're seeing price decreases. We're just not seeing as large of increases. So we are still seeing price increases. So we are not out of the storm just yet. Welcome to the channel. My name is Dennis, and today we're going to be talking about recent inflation data. They're saying that inflation is on a summer vacation, but is that really true? Is that really the full picture? Let's waste no time. Let's get right into the content today. Before we do, if you like content like this, leave a comment down below letting me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe for more content like this and hit that thumbs up button for me. Now, we all know that inflation has been running rampant. It has been hot for the last year or even a little bit longer than that. And it's been many things that are factor in it. It all stems back. It all started from the COVID pandemic. Since the pandemic, you had the supply chain crunch, people out of the factories, people not working, time off messed with the whole supply chain. You also had a whole bunch of stimulus spending, so you had a whole bunch of people flush with money, buying things that weren't coming in, led to price increases. There were other reasons as well, for a lot of common goods. We saw food prices go up, gas prices go up, and some of the more important things, because the consumption of fuel, the consumption of food, these are things that we need on an everyday basis. And when it comes to the price of food and the price of fuel, there's some other factors as well that we have to consider. There's the whole geopolitical tensions that we have seen that have kind of played with the gas prices. There's the climate changes, the climate catastrophes that we've seen, the heat, different things that have played with the food supply. So many different factors that are involved. This is, a multi-dimensional thing that we have to look at. Different areas of the economy affected different. Car prices, for example, affected quite a bit. There's been some prices in the economy that have not changed as much, but all of this information is tracked. What's increasing? How does inflation look? All of that is being tracked on a continual basis. And just recently, the numbers have come in more favorably, and that's a good thing. Different factors that go into it. You got to think about the Fed policy, the monetary tightening, the increasing of the interest rates. We've seen a couple shocks now, 0.75, 0.75, 0.5. That is starting to catch up to the markets now. It's starting to show in the data. Those shocks, you're starting to see it in the way that inflation numbers are going, but we have to keep in mind, inflation was very high. It's lower, and that doesn't mean that we're seeing price decreases. We're just not seeing as large of increases. So we are still seeing price increases. So we are not out of the storm just yet. So while this information and while the data might seem a little bit promising to us, we see the reports that inflation is on a summer vacation, and it sounds good. Let's dissect the information a little bit further and see what it really means. So while the numbers do show that inflation is not rising at an alarming rate or as alarming of a rate as it was just recently, and that is a welcoming sign, we have to acknowledge that prices are still up. We have not seen deflation occur. We're seeing a leveling off of inflation. So prices went up quite a bit, and now they're starting to level off, but we still have elevated prices that are causing a crunch for a large portion of the middle class, not to mention what they've done for the poorer side of society. It's really caused a lot of headaches for a lot of households. So the numbers right now are showing that inflation is just kind of cooling off. The percentages that it's increasing by is going down. That is a welcoming sign. But inflation, or the price of goods that we buy on a continual basis, it is still up. If you need to buy a new car now, or even if you're buying a used car, that price is going to be elevated compared to a couple years. When you're at the grocery store, it might not be getting a whole lot more expensive compared to what it was last month, but in recent months, those prices are still up. prices are still up and it is still affecting people. The recent Fed activity has had a clear impact on what we're seeing in the inflation data as of right now. These last numbers that have just recently come out are a reflection of those 0.5s, those 0.75 rate hikes that the Fed did. They did it to send a shock to the market, and they accomplished what they needed to. But those type of rate hikes are not going to always be there. The Fed's not just going to continue to zap and to send shockwaves month after month. They understand that they are going to cause a slowdown. They might even cause a certain contraction, which we have seen. And by the numbers, by the book, we are technically in a recession with 2 quarters of negative growth. So they understand that, but they don't want a hard crash landing. They don't want a deep recession. If they do cause a recession, a Fed-induced recession, they don't want it to be this deep, 2008 type of situation. The contraction is to slow down the inflation, which is what we're seeing, but that's not going to always happen. At a point, they're going to slow down their rate hikes, might even stop their rate hikes, might decrease rates. When those things happen, you got to continue to keep an eye on the inflation numbers. Also, when it comes to the price of food, I do like seeing that those numbers are not increasing as much, because that's something that we consume on an everyday basis. But I want to tell people, and I said this in my food shortage video as well, pay attention in the fall. The harvest that we just had, or this summer of growing, producing food, has not been as good as recent years for a lot of different reasons. A big reason is the climate factor. Climate change. We've had a rough year when it comes to crops. The water cycle. A lot of places are in a mild drought right now. You're seeing not as much rain, sort of like a water crisis. And I'll do a video about that separately, like I did a video on a food crisis. I'll do one in the coming weeks about a coming water crisis as well. Just something to keep an eye on when it comes to drought-like conditions, high heat, climate change, the harvest that we just had. Just pay attention to food prices when we get to the fall and when we get to the winter. Same thing with the gas prices. It's good to see the price of gas has recently gone down a little bit, but when we get to the point where it gets to the fall and the winter and we have to heat homes again, and there's a big number of consumption, kind of a shock to the amount of consumption that's going on, pay attention to those gas prices at that time. So while it is welcoming to see some price decreases or price stabilization right now, wait till the fall, wait till the winter, and pay attention. Now, this isn't a doomsday video. I'm not trying to scare anybody or anything like that, but read the data, take it for what it is, but also keep an eye on the coming 2 seasons, and let's see how things shake out after that. If you like content like this, leave a comment down below letting me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe for more content like this, and hit that thumbs up button for me.